That's what I want us to speak about. You're talking about the thick skin, and
yes.
I'll get to you, Mheshimiwa Russell, because there has been conversations that because of the protest last week, some few things will have to change. We've been hearing from the President, from the National Assembly itself, and the Speaker and Deputy Speaker have been speaking, especially about the involvement of David Maraga, the Chief Justice Emeritus, who was on the streets with the families last week. Listen to what National Assembly Speaker had to say.
I want to advise my professional colleagues, Willy Mutunga, mwalimu wangu, na Maraga. You have been Chief Justices of the Republic of Kenya. You are expected to show an example of what a senior statesman and retired Chief Justice is.
That was Speaker Moses Wetangula. Earlier on, Gladys Boss, I believe it was on Thursday last week, had some not very favorable words for the former Chief Justice. Let's listen, as we also listen to the President addressing hateful leaders.
If you hate the leaders, I want to tell you, hate brings conflict. Conflict brings violence. Violence is not a solution to unemployment, is not a solution to any of the challenges that Kenya is facing. So, if your strategy is anchored on hate for other people, for leaders, how are you going to provide a solution for our nation?
Mheshimiwa Russell, has the President gotten the diagnosis right that this is about hateful leaders, it's not about a just cause by the young people?
Thank you, Sam. I think we must call a spade a spade. You know, listening to Wakili Habi here, when you lose a country, you don't have a second country. You become a refugee. In Kenya, from the look of things, what the President said, what Murkomen said, what many people are saying, what those families who lost their loved ones are saying, please give me back life. And people are really passionate that they are in pain. And that pain must only be removed by we Kenyans coming to our senses. You know, we make laws,
yep.
But you ask yourself, what law do I craft? What do I agree with? What don't I agree with? You see what Senator Nyutu said on the DIG who stepped aside. Any of us should complain if we feel our rights have been violated. Maraga, in my own estimation, he is a citizen. He can go to the street. But you know, when things go wrong, you are the one who will be blamed because you are the highest ranking person on that street at that time. And I will call it you being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Today, I don't know what lawyers are going to say. Honorable Justice Emeritus Maraga was the Chief Justice at one time, the person who was the custodian of our laws, the person who was a point of last resort. For him to be on the street, it didn't matter under what circumstance. It was wrong, in my own estimation. Why? Because still, when this country has problems, he becomes a point of reference. Remember, he's the one who has crafted police reforms. And it has had far-reaching effect in terms of bringing police to order, in terms of addressing the socio-economic problems of the police. So even as committee, as we try to question the police when they appear before us or when we visit, we'll tell them, what have you done on this Maraga report that says ABCD? So in my own judgment as a member of parliament,
Yep.
What the president said there, we must begin to trace where are we going wrong as a country. Because we cannot just move on as if nothing happens.
Right. But Mheshimiwa, when you say that Maraga was at the wrong place at the wrong time, what does Article 37 of the Constitution mean to you? And I want to read it, that every person has the right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. Every person includes CJ Maraga, isn't it?
Peaceably and unarmed.
So
He was not.
Which firearm was Maraga carrying?
Wait, let me make my
You know,
point.
the people were disappointed.
No, let me make my
Allow him,
point.
okay,
Let me make my point.
No, this is
let me
coherent,
make my
inconsistent.
point.
Let's hear his answer.
Peaceably and unarmed.
Yes.
That is what Article 37 clearly says. And if you look at what happened, Maraga himself, as what Mr. Wino here is saying, he was with the families that lost their loved ones. He was commiserating with them. But subsequently, those who followed him, those who followed that family, they were carrying stones, they were blocking the roads. All those subsequent activities.
So how does that nullify the rights of CJ Maraga? That's what I'm struggling with.
It nullifies him because today nobody cares who else was on the street. The person they see was Nelson Avi, nobody else, because that was a person of responsibility and a person who is held in this country with the highest regard.
So what should CJ Maraga do?
Can I intervene, Kidogo? No, excuse me.
This discussion is becoming dark.
Let me just intervene.
No,
We need to blow the wind.
Let me just helping on something.
You're taking away the mic.
No. Humbly.
Okay.
Humbly. First thing you must understand is that those chief justices have bodyguards who are armed. And these bodyguards cannot leave them. It is their responsibility to be with their boss. So when you go for demonstrations and you have armed bodyguards in the group protecting you, then you are not unarmed. You are armed. That is number one. Number two.
Who? Maraga or the bodyguards?
But it is you who is armed. Because you have your bodyguards. Anyway, no, I'm just trying to put the issue of unarmed. You know, it is like today, I have a right to go to a disco.
Surely.
So if you attend this discussion, you will know the people.
So what I'm saying, no, I'm not saying it is wrong for the Chief Justice to go for a demonstration. That is his constitutional right. The only thing he would do next time is to leave his bodyguards, because those bodyguards are police officers, and they're not allowed to be in a demonstration, even themselves. It's wrong for them to be in a demonstration.
So if he goes to a demo, he should go alone?
He should go alone. But you see, also it puts the officer...
security has been...
But it also puts the police officer in a very awkward position, because this is his boss. If anything happens to him, so basically he should not go.
Wow. Yes, Wakili.
Let me address Charles.
Yes.
I'm speaking.
Yes, it's okay, I'll listen.
Carry on.
Nobody hates President William Samoei Ruto. If people hated President William Samoei Ruto, he will not be president. In fact, the people of Kenya love their leaders. The people of Kenya do not approve of the misconduct of leaders. Let William Samoei Ruto know this. Let Moses Wetangula know this. Let Gladys Sholei know this. and I speak as one of the people of Kenya. These three are my friends. I will not wish any harm on them, but I will constantly disapprove of the wrong things they do. And when a leader of the caliber of the president says, if you hate us, we'll return violence, that is wrong. We saw what Eliud Lagat perceived to be hate. He retaliated by making a complaint. Somebody was overzealous, decided to act on that complaint, and we lost a life. Number two, Wetangula, Gladys Sholei have now realized the significance of alternative good leadership. They have seen it in David Maraga. That is why they want to suppress his right to vie as president of the Republic of Kenya. That is why they want to demean his resolve by saying somebody of his stature. Why do you mean somebody of his stature? Is he not a Kenyan? Is he not entitled to vie for president of the Republic of Kenya? Is he not entitled to advocate for the rule of law? And you see, my point of divergence with Russell and Sir Charles here is they reside in a cocoon that is so pasteurized that they do not see reality. This is the reality, Charles and Russell. We need good governance in this country. And when we have virtuous individuals like David Kenani Maraga, who, as you've already seen, has attained wide acceptance, not just from the Gen Z, but from the entire Kenyan population.
On the street.
Where else? Where do you get your support from? You get it from the streets. And it is imperative that well-meaning people like David Kenani Maraga must come out of their comfort zones and push for reform, push for good governance, vie for office, and get elected. That is the only way in which we'll have a leadership that does not perceive a statement of disapproval from the people as one of hate. No, a president can never use a word as hate. We don't hate our leaders. We disapprove of the bad things our leaders do. When leaders do good things, we approve of them. And that must be the guiding principle insofar as this matter is concerned. You can now listen to these other guys.
No, I had a very important...
No, Charles is going too many times.
Charles,
it's okay.
Just hold on. Let's listen to what Deputy Speaker said, Gladys Boss, when she was on the floor of the House on Thursday about this particular matter.
And I must say, shame on you, Chief Justice Maraga. You're currently on pension, paid by the government. They pay for your cars, they pay for your gardener, they pay for your cook, and then you go to the streets to demonstrate and mislead our children, to destroy people's properties. Shame on you, Chief Justice Maraga. Somebody of you...
Now, what do you do with such as Senator? Because she represents the leadership of the House, and earlier on we have from the National Assembly Speaker. Well, Charles explains that because he has police officers, he should not be on the streets. But again, in the letter to the IG, David Maraga is talking about that whatever security is accorded is as per the Constitution and the law. What do we do with such kind of statements and positions?
Thank you, Sam. Another very disappointing person has been Gladys Sholei. And I say that not because of anything personal against her, but because of the utterances that she has been making of late. You know, like that particular utterance, you know, like, it is like she wants to insinuate that the perks that the CJ enjoys is a privilege by President Ruto's government. I mean, Gladys Sholei is a lawyer. She should know that this is a right. The Chief Justice Maraga was Chief Justice. And probably, I don't have a security background, but I think I want to understand that, you know, when you are a judge, which is what a Chief Justice is, maybe you made some decisions when you were in office that did not sit well with somebody who could then be dangerous to you. And that is why a Chief Justice, a judge, I think even after retirement, I'm not very clear about it, should enjoy protection by the state because of the decisions that they may have made when they were in office. But when Gladys Bosh-Sholei speaks, you may be tempted to think that she wants to say that this government is giving Justice Maraga some privilege by giving out these rights. And why I say she has been very reckless lately is because of, again, what she said in a meeting in Uasin Gishu, which is the county that she represents. That when President Ruto tells her to do something, they do it. Ukisema Gachagua aende nyumbani, Gachagua anaenda nyumbani. You know, and that's why I started by saying some, and I pray that you give me some latitude this time around. That's why I started by saying sometimes you don't understand what happens to people's, you know, people with good education, what happens to them when they get to office, because they start reasoning in a manner that is weird. You saw Murkomen, for example, saying that the demonstrators in Nairobi who caused havoc were delivered from Murang'a, Kirinyaga, you know, Kiambu, while some we know that the police, we have NIS, one. Number two, that you can only access Nairobi through our roads. I mean, these roads were manned. Why didn't Murkomen deploy officers to, of course, profile who was coming to Nairobi and who was not coming? And how many youths can you deliver from Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Kiambu without the knowledge of the police? That's why I'm saying some of these things are very disappointing when they are said by people who have a good education, people you should think are reasonable. Look at Honorable Russell here and the arguments that, you know, he's presenting here. It only tells you which side he supports, that he's not here to discuss issues, but to protect a particular side, which is government. I mean, and you know, it becomes very disappointing. Look at Honorable Wetangula, you know, a lawyer of great repute, Speaker of the National Assembly, minority leader in the Senate for 2 terms, although the second term was half term. I mean, now, you know, telling Justice Maraga and Justice Willy Mutunga that they should not join in the streets, that he wants to advise them as a colleague lawyer. You wonder, I mean, it is better who should be advised by people who are not even lawyers like myself, that he reads Article 37 again. You know, but just because he's speaker today and he speaks for government, and you have seen him actually, you know, a speaker is supposed to be non-partisan. You see him in these, you know, amorphous things called empowerment programs, you know, and that includes my speaker also in the Senate, you know, taking sides when these are people who are not supposed to take sides. But allow me to talk about the statement by President Ruto about hatred. And it couldn't have been put across any better than how Nelson Harvey has put it, that the president cannot talk about hatred. I want to tell you, Sam, that if there is anyone who is the architect of hatred, this is William Ruto. And allow me to finish that point, because there is a clip, and I have it, and everybody has seen it, once before he became president, saying hakuna mtu akona shida na Wakikuyu kama sisi, lakini unatofautisha maneno ili kwanza uchukue serikali, halafu unatumia ile serikali sasa kutatua matatizo yako. And that is what the Kikuyu community that is referred to that time has seen. Open hatred. What did, for example, Rigiji do that he had not done to President Uhuru when he was deputy president? What have all the members of that community who supported him done other than hatred? And you can list them some. There is Rigathi Gachagua, there is Dente Nyoro, there is Moses Kuria, there is Mithika Linturi, there is Justin Muturi, all members from one community who supported him in a great way. And Nelson Harvey, he also supported him in a great way. So what else describes President Ruto's actions against that particular community other than hatred? So President Ruto is the architect of hatred.
How do you separate between personal grudges between leaders
and
a grudge between a leader and a community?
Exactly the way I have put it. I've not given you,
No, I'm asking, was Rigathi impeached as a community or as an individual?
No. I have stated my point, the statement very well. And I have put it across very well. And I've told you not about one particular leader. I've given you a list and I've mentioned names. And none of those names was just a name from that particular region. They are people who supported President Ruto and gave all. So it is not one person, Sam. It is a community. You cannot tell us that only one community, for example, President Ruto likes saying that...
you have a good point. Just a minute. You have a good point, but these tribal connotations you're putting it through will not make the audience see your point. You need to dissect this point of hatred with meticulous objectivity so that the people can listen.
That's what thank you, Harvey. You know what I'm saying is, and why I mentioned that particular community, I don't even mention it here, is because of the clip. Because in that clip, and I know you have seen it, he mentioned that community by name. And that is why I am saying, I'm not trying to talk about that particular community. I'm only saying he once made a statement that showed that he had disdain and hatred against a particular community. And that, Nelson, although you may not like it, that he said that you first of all forget about that, seek the power of government, which then enables you to solve the problems that you have with that particular community. Which is what he has now done. That is how I was trying to...
Which year was that when he said that?
I may not remember the year, but I have the clip.
You're losing the audience. You have a good point.
Okay. Yeah. I want to hear from the member of the National Assembly, but before I do so, let's listen to the president warning about destroying the country in the actions we've seen on the streets.
I dare ask, do we want to build or do we want to destroy? Do we uphold the law only to exploit its protection, to sow chaos and cripple our economy? Is this what freedom really means? Is it freedom to ban what others have built? Those elements doing this are not fighting for freedom. They are attacking freedom.
You see, Mheshimiwa Raso, first of all, do you know why Kenyans are on the streets on 25th of June?
Yes.
Do you then agree with what the president is saying, if you're aware of that?
Thank you, Sam. Maybe I want to take you back on impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. No, I must say that, because I sit in Parliament.
Can you first go to my question?
I sit in Parliament.
You told me that you know why Kenyans were on the streets on June 25th.
Yes.
Perhaps it's fair to ask, why were they on the streets?
From the beginning, they said that they were commemorating those who died on 25th June last year, following the finance bill. That was never to be. So that was it.
There was another reason. Justice for those victims.
Quest for justice.
Yes, I would agree with that. Those were the reasons.
So when the president says that these are people who want to destroy the country, is it a fair assessment, knowing the reasons that took Kenyans back to the streets on Wednesday last week?
Sam, I read the Constitution, and it's very clear in my mind what the president stands for. And Ruto is not the first president in Kenya. Article 131, Subarticle 1, Subarticle E, it says the president is a symbol of national unity. We may disagree on everything in this country, but the back...
So Karen, don't be distracted.
Yeah, the back sits somewhere. That it is the president who will carry the burden at the end of the day. So the president also has responsibility, particularly in terms of human rights, fundamental freedom, and rule of law. The president has also another very important role: promote and enhance the unity of the nation.
Yeah.
Senator Nyutu is among those who elected William Ruto to be the fifth president of Kenya.
Yep.
And half time you cannot turn around, you say that he hates my community. And that is not true. And you made a very important point to say, where do we place the disagreement between individual leaders and communities? And that is where we are. We cannot make the issues of communities or leaders to be intertwined. I will not accept for once for anybody to say that Parliament passes law to infringe on the rights of a particular community. It can never do that. So I believe it's the president. So I believe it's any other leader in authority, because we must stand for the well-being and what is beneficial to our people.
You know, Mheshimiwa, so you are doing so well when you're describing where the buck stops.
Yes.
You said that the president has a responsibility on human rights, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law.
Yeah.
Does your statement also understand that there are some 62 families that have lost their loved ones since June of 2024, and they're still seeking justice? In those demonstrations, I think about 17 to 19 have been added to the list. What does that mean to the leadership of this country?
And I said the buck stops at the president, whether the good or the bad. And in this particular case, it brings us to the beginning of our conversation this morning. Yeah. This idea of peaceful demonstration. Do we have such thing in Kenya?
Now, June 25th, the week that was, the quest for justice would not have been on the streets had justice been served to the victims of June 2024. What role will Parliament play? Because you sit there, you may not sit at the presidency, but you sit in Parliament, and you haven't seen any action being taken by your house. What shall we say?
There are many things that Parliament has done. One of the things that we have done with the tooth comb is particularly in the area of the executive control. And police fall right under that pillar, where we are saying, should the police enforce the law the way they are doing? How would the police support peaceful demonstration? It is not just to blame the demonstrators, but what is the role of the police in that space?
That's futuristic, Mheshimiwa.
In that space.
I'm talking about...
When a student doesn't get the answer correct, you give other students.
Let me just try, because... let me just try, because he sits at the National Assembly, in a committee that none of us sits.
Yes.
Again, June 2024, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reports 60 people were killed. IMLU reports 63. So, give or take 60 to 63 lives were lost. No justice has come to them or to their loved ones. If you tell me about demonstrations, that's futuristic. How about this?
As a committee, one thing that we have done, we have sat with the National Police Service to try and chisel through what is the omission or the commission as far as their actions are concerned. Secondly is the role of IPOA in terms of oversight of the National Police Service, in terms of policies. Where is it that the police is going wrong? Okay. Because our constitution is very clear that the police must make what you call good relation with the citizen.
Okay, all right, Mheshimiwa Raso. I get that you don't have specific answers to that question, which is fine for now, but unfortunate.
Not really.
No,
not really.
But students also speak.
But let me finish. Let me finish.
The microphone is mine.
Let me finish.
The microphone is mine. Now, I think the point that needs to be answered some, appropriately so, is whether the people of Kenya are doing the wrong thing according to what the president has said. He said, we are dismantling the freedoms we have fought for. This is not the way to ask for freedom. The point is this. Let the President of the Republic of Kenya uphold and defend the Constitution. When the President of the Republic of Kenya comes and says, I will stand with the policemen after 15 people have been killed, then the President has lost the people. You understand? And the President must always understand he holds delegate authority on behalf of the people of Kenya. And as Napoleon said, the people can make you emperor and they can make you prisoner. Any leader who does not accord to this simple principle by Napoleon is a leader who has no future.
All right, I'll give you the final word, Charles, but first to take a look at this feedback that has come to us at Citizen TV Kenya. Some Gituku, the hashtag to use is Citizen Daybreak on X. Godi Baraza, you're saying that you only know that the top leaders of a country are drunk with power when a CS in charge of security gives a shoot-on-sight orders to police against unarmed civilians. Babu Michael, the shoot order by CS Murkomen may not really mean shoot to kill, but remember, we've seen many people die from a single bullet. This then makes his sentiments very unfortunate, unlawful. That wasn't what the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provided us. Sir Nixon Dogirem, it's true that the police have refuted CS Murkomen's shoot to kill order. Kudos to them. Wabarikiwe zaidi. Meanwhile, the government must innovate ways of identifying goons from peaceful demonstrators. And Olum Justas, it's blunders after blunders without apology. It is a government of doublespeak who should protect the citizens of this republic. The CS clearly incited the police against the people. This will be counterproductive in the long run. Then, Peter, you're saying in Kenya, protests are never peaceful. The police must follow the law when handling protesters, and the protesters should avoid looting, vandalizing businesses and torching business or the police stations. Shoot to kill slogan must be condemned. Charles, in 20 seconds.
Oh, thank you so much. My take is I would want all Kenyans to borrow a leaf from the demonstration that took place in Mombasa on 25th, where the convener had a very large crowd. They went through the streets. They were supported by the police. There was no burning. And eventually at about 1:30 p.m., the convener addressed his team and told them, our demonstration is over. Let everyone go home. If we see that kind of demonstration, and even the demonstration we saw in Meru, where even the OCPD was together with the people, then we will not have a problem.
Okay.
What we also need to do is let's not make our police service a lame duck. Let's agree that when they are wrong, let action be taken, but let's not make our police appear as if they cannot be justified to use their firearms. Let's also remember what happened in Rwanda when only two communities butchered one another. It was not the police killing. It was this tribe and that tribe killing. If we push the police too much, a day will come when the police will withdraw their guns and the public will be left alone to fight on their own. We will not be able to recover this country. Let us obey the rule of law. Let us work as a country. Let us not take it that blame games will not help us.
Okay. All right.
Let everyone in this country be responsible. But remember, police officers are justified to use their firearms in circumstances that have been passed by Parliament.
That's wrong law.
Thank you so much. Of course, limited by law. And I'm also informed that the right to life can also be limited in accordance with the Constitution and the law in Article 24 of the Constitution, which is our reading for the morning. Thank you so much. Senator from Murang'a, Jonyoto, Mheshimiwa Dido Raso, or Raso Dido, from Saku, Charles Owino, as well as Nelson Harvey. Thank you so much for making time for us. Up next is Matters Sporty Monday. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again tomorrow. Bye for now.